In 1904, the Western Irrigation Canal was built off the Bow River and a weir was put in place to divert water for agriculture. The 1.5-meter drop soon became known as the drowning machine, and the community called for action. The city of Calgary responded. Today, the area is known as HARVIE Passage. A weir is a type of dam, and the one in Calgary is used to pool water upstream to be diverted into the Western Irrigation Canal. This canal feeds water into Chestermere Lake, which is then diverted for irrigation use all over southern Alberta. The original weir was built in 1904 and rebuilt around 1975. The 1975 weir introduced a 1.5-meter downstream drop. This barricaded fish from swimming upstream and was a water hazard that became known as the drowning machine. 14 people died between 1975 and 2005. This 2002 satellite image shows the weir in place with only a string of buoys as a safety feature. It was not until 2006 that plans started for the redesign of the weir and passage around it. Construction finished in 2011 and HARVIE Passage was born, named after the family who contributed a significant portion of the funding. The passage consisted of the upper channel with more rapids where fish and experienced paddlers could pass through, and the lower channel, which was built to a higher degree of water safety. Unfortunately, this structure did not last long, as in June 2013, Calgary was hit with the worst flood in Alberta's history. HARVIE Passage was destroyed, along with a large portion of the riverbank. Satellite imagery from 2015 shows the full extent of the damage. The lower channel was full of sediment and a new diversion had developed across what was once part of Pierce Park. The vegetation in that area was destroyed. The upper channel took damage as well and was no longer safe for anyone to pass through. As part of provincial funding for flood damage repair, Alberta Transportation commissioned a redesign of HARVIE Passage, with input from the local paddling community, 3 hydrology engineers, and a local landscape architecture firm. Reconstruction of HARVIE Passage to a new, more robust, and safer design started in 2016. The first step was damage assessment, especially of the area of land that needed to be rehabilitated. The next step was rebuilding the upper channel. Once the upper channel was finished and fish could pass through, the lower channel was rebuilt. This channel was built to be as safe as possible. The design team tested it out by floating through on an inflatable hot dog. Finally, rehabilitation of the new Divide Island took place. Native plants were reintroduced to the area in between the concrete and boulder infrastructure. Imagery from 2019 shows the finished HARVIE Passage, with clearly defined upper and lower channels. The island is even starting to come back to life. The upper passage, closer to the canal, is designed to have Class 3 rapids. Only experienced paddlers should pass through this way. This is also the passage for fish. Spaces are left in each of the small weirs to allow fish to swim upstream. The lower channel is where the connection to the community is very strong. The Class 2 rapids have been designed to be safe for everyone. Life jackets and proper floating technique are encouraged by signs. On hot summer days, you can see people of all ages floating through and having lots of fun. The local paddling community was involved in the design of the rapid features and uses both channels for slaloms, competitions, and whitewater rafting. The shore of HARVIE Passage is terraced with large stones and boulders set into concrete. The landscape architects were primarily concerned with meeting the engineering requirements for safety and erosion. Since this was an Alberta transportation project, it was not intended to be designed for recreational use. However, the landscape architects integrated the engineering requirements with design for humans by choosing infrastructure stones and boulders that could also function as stairs and seating. There are plants rooted within these terraces. Space was left under the concrete so that these plants could reach groundwater. Some areas of planting have been more successful than others, so this work is still ongoing. Wherever possible, the landscape architects included beaches and eddies for lounging and wading, with an additional safety function of providing emergency access and opportunity to swim away from the rapids. Although originally intended for water safety and habitat support, HARVIE Passage is a very popular site for swimmers, paddlers, sunbathers, and dogs. Next time you're in Calgary and the weather is nice, take a trip to HARVIE Passage to see a marvel of landscape architecture and maybe even cool off with a float down the lower channel.